Hello guys, Odin here. I've been seeing a lot of videos recently talking about how these companies recently like Concord costing like up to 700 million and Marathon 800 million and all these expensive you know costs to make a game. And the same applies to movies, like you'll see big budget Disney movies costing around like a billion, and everyone's like wondering why. And I see YouTubers making, still very good videos on the potential reasons, and they primarily bring up DEI and training costs. They bring up a lot of other reasons, but they never go to their core reason, which is because they're not game designers, they're not into game development, so they don't actually know what is really sucking the money out of these companies. And today I'll show you just a glimpse of probably why a lot of games cost a lot of money, you know? So besides the cost of running an office with maybe 1,000 people, like there's many other things that can exponentially like increase that cost. So let's see. Let's check it out. So for example, uh most people don't know about this company, but Autodesk is like one of the leading companies when it comes to 3D in general. So they make things like engineering software, AutoCAD, and they make 3ds Max and Autodesk Maya, which is what I have on the screen here. And they have many other types of 3D software, like even simulation for both airplanes and car designs to show streamlining. We go into Autodesk Maya. Maya is one of the most popular 3D software creation tools, and it's one of the OGs. Before you had to, just pay like a base price, just like for Photoshop used to be, and you pay them like maybe $200, and you have Maya. Something else to point out: Maya is used in every project, from Battlefield 6 to all the way down to Frozen from Disney, Pixar movies, and any type of CG project that's high end uses Maya. Let's go into the price. So if you look in here, this is just the starting price per month, right? And let's go into the pricing options. And guess what? It's a lot of money, especially if you're for one person. And this is per user, this is per computer. So that means if you have like 50 employees that needs to use Maya, then this is this is the thing sucking up all the money. Then let's go to the next one. You have Substance Painter. It used to be, their own thing, but they were bought by Adobe, from what I remember. So now this software, if you enter buy now, you're looking at a monthly subscription, and for businesses, you're looking at a hefty subscription. Luckily, I don't know how they pulled this off, but if you go on Steam, you can get Substance Painter for a very good, very good price. If you go on here, they still offer one-time payments, which is $200, which is a lot of money. So, if you're not invested into Substance Painter, then and just by the way, it's for making video game textures, right? And let's look at the next tool. So you're looking upwards of like 200 a month to it's more like 110 a month to all the way down to its base rental price is 60 or 24, right? Then we already get the point with Adobe. And you have another one called Houdini, right, which is primarily used in movies. Houdini, a Houdini workstation license for limits of 5 workstations per license, right, per studio, is almost $2,000 here. Then if you want more from them, you're paying upwards of $3,000 just for just to fucking use their software for a year. Then SpeedTree, you've probably heard this one before if you're interested in video game creation. But SpeedTree, just I mean, that it's nice of them to have an indie price, right? They have 19 bucks monthly, and all it does, the software does, is for making trees in games and planting trees everywhere. Then SpeedTree Pro, which is why I'm assuming that most companies use, is you're looking at 900 a year. Just insane. Then you have ZBrush, which is a sculpting tool, and this costs $399. Almost 400 bucks, 400 bucks a year, man. And we go into the buy and pricing plans. As you can see, it gets dicey, right? So there's a lot of money going out, and if you're a company trying to make, these monthly plans are probably for individuals, but like if you try to like see what the straight up cost is for a year, which is probably what you need for a studio, you're looking at 400 bucks. Now with these two softwares I'm showing here, we're entering the indie side, which is Blender used to be a joke, especially during the hype of Maya. But the problem is that since Autodesk and Adobe have switched to a subscription model, which is stupid because people will just upright buy the software and just keep it forever until there's a new version. Now they are forcing your hand to pay a subscription, and they can change anything as they go. So if you like a specific version, they can just flip it on you anyways. So because of all that problems, Blender became a very good target for indie devs, and Blender is free, it's open source, so anybody can add to it. I'm sure they might charge some royalty fees, they have donations and stuff, but it's free and it's taking over the industry now. And the problem is that now you have a lot of professionals in the game industry that use all the high-end software, and they're not trained for these other pieces of software. It might fuck up their workflow and stuff like that. It's not anybody's fault, it's not the customer's fault, it's just the industry changing. And there's another piece of software that can replace Adobe, right? It's pretty much free from their websites, but if you go on Steam also, you search it here, I think it's $9.99, right, for this piece of software. This allows you to do painting and pretty much anything Photoshop can do. So yeah. All right, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about, and I hope this is helpful. But it is an interesting thing to look at because, let's just say if we want to use some guess numbers and say you want to use Maya, Substance Painter, Maya for 3D modeling, animation, and ZBrush for sculpting, right? To put details on your 3D model, and use Substance Painter for more advanced, texture work. Then what's the other one? I'm sure there's more, but let's just say you want ZBrush, which is an industry standard too for sculpting, right? You want better sculpt work. You're looking at close to 4,000 bucks a year per computer, or per 5, depending on what deal you get. So I just thought no one was thinking about this. Sorry, no one's talking about this, and I think it would be helpful if all the big content creators that are trying to shed light on the game industry would do it in a more accurate sense. Because of course, yeah, they can talk about like basic spendings and and stuff like that. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you like this type of content, and share your thoughts in the comments. And you have a good day.